Hello, welcome to today's broadcast. It is my pleasure to have Neisha Berry as my guest. Hi, Neisha.
Hi.
I met a couple years ago as I was trying to organize low carb for better health and move more into this space, and I'm privileged to call her a colleague. She has a great story, a great personal story of her own health and how that has transformed her career. She is a registered nurse. She is also a certified health coach and a certified lactation consultant. And more than that, she's a mom. And that's what we're going to focus on today's conversation about, because we are both moms at different stages in our motherhood. And I get questions all the time about trying to make sure that your kids are healthy. Because let's face it, we get one shot on this earth to make sure we start our kids off nutritionally sound. And once it's gone, it's gone. You know, we can still have a positive influence, but we really have that one opportunity. So, with the upcoming Mother's Day here in a few days, 4 or 5 days, something like that,
Yeah.
I wanted to take this opportunity to talk through and to give encouragement to the moms out there who are in the same boat that we are, trying to raise healthy kids. So, welcome, Neisha. And why don't you start with just kind of giving the audience a background about you, your health story, and your journey to motherhood, that kind of thing.
Okay. Like Amanda said, I am a nurse and I've been a nurse for 15 years, if you can
Wow.
believe that. And
Yeah.
in healthcare longer than that. And I think if I go back, my health journey started before I realized it started. I did a stint with veganism in my early 20s.
Okay. I didn't know that one about you.
Yeah, I tried to be, eat healthy.
Uh-huh.
And I was an LPN at the time working at a nursing home, and I had to constantly eat all the time because I was never full. I was like a grazing cow. That's what I call it. I just had to graze all day long and was never satisfied. And that lasted about probably, I don't know, 8 months. And then I went to vegetarian,
Mhm.
brought back in some eggs and cheese. And then I went down a really rough path of pizza and beer and chips and just kind of let it all go.
Living the wildlife out there.
Living it, well, yeah, I was married, went through a bad divorce. I was eating my feelings and, a lot of trauma, mental health problems. I just went through it then.
Mm,
At the time, I thought, well, no big deal. I'm just moving on with my life. But
yeah.
I think we as adults know those things really take a toll on our health, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And I thought I was fine all the way up till I was, I think, 27 is when I first started seeing health issues
Mm,
that were more abnormal than you would think. Just that, a 27-year-old might have a few things going on, but I was having
yeah.
extreme fatigue, hair loss, which had never been a problem for me, unexplained weight gain in specific areas, like just my stomach
Mm,
was very bloated, constantly bloated. I gained probably 40 pounds over a year to a year and a half, not really changing what I was eating. I was still eating the same kind of stuff.
mhm,
And the main issue that really concerned me was the brain fog.
mm,
I don't even know that that's a good enough term for what I was dealing with. It
mm.
was to the point where I felt like I may have early onset
Oh, wow.
Alzheimer's. That's
Yeah.
how bad it was. I just could
Scary
not.
as a nurse, man.
Yes. So, it was really bad. I couldn't form my sentences. I couldn't remember things. I would just walk around the house thinking, why did I come in here? Which, I still do that sometimes, but this was all day long, over and over again, an unnormal amount of forgetfulness,
Mhm.
and just did not want to get up out of bed. And then I started having pain and my joints and my neck and my back. My heels started hurting. I had cold intolerance. I was cold all the time. All these things started popping up and getting more and more severe.
Mhm.
Then, um, after Ken and I got married, we were trying to get pregnant
Mhm.
and went to a fertility specialist because we tried for a year. And I was 30 at this time, so I wanted to really get an idea of what was going on.
Yeah.
And so they gave me the unexplained infertility thing. But then, after looking at my labs and stuff, my fertility specialist diagnosed me officially with Hashimoto's, which we kind of already thought I might have, but that was when I first became officially diagnosed and put on some thyroid hormone. I took Armor and Nature, And that helped a little bit. And then after a few weeks of listening to my husband talk about keto like every single day, and you should just try it. It may help, blah, 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 blah. I just was like, you know what? Fine. I'll try it. And so I did dirty lazy keto probably for a week, and just doing that form of keto, which is just I wasn't counting carbs, I wasn't tracking my fat, I wasn't doing anything. I cut out the sugar and I cut out the bread and the pasta and the carbs that are very obviously heavy carbs.
Yeah.
And within those first 7 days I saw an improvement in my pain and my brain fog and just my overall energy level. And I was sold. So I was like, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. Let me put a little bit more time in. And the longer I ate that way, the better I felt.
Yeah.
The more I restricted the types of things in my diet, the better I felt. I did the carnivore diet as an elimination diet. And I didn't want to do carnivore either. At that time, Ken was talking about carnivore every single day. So I was like, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. I like my veggies, but I finally did it. And guess what? I felt the best I'd ever felt on carnivore. And then I reintroduced some of my favorite foods to see how I could tolerate it. And now I eat what I call ketovore or meat-based keto, whatever you want to call it, where I eat mostly animal proteins, a little bit of specific types of dairy, and some vegetables like onions and garlic, and mostly seasonings and maybe some sauces that are clean sauces. And I've put my autoimmune disease in remission. I did get pregnant through IVF with our first baby, and then lo and behold, about a year and a half ago, I got pregnant naturally.
Wow.
So I have very few symptoms left over from when this whole thing started. I do still have a little bit of pain in specific areas. I do have breast implants, so I'm hoping when I get those taken out, everything will go away. That's what I'm hopeful for. But I give so much credit to this way of eating for decreasing the inflammation, for giving my brain function a huge boost. All the things that this way of eating it's just so powerful. It's so much more than weight loss. I know you know that. And probably a lot of people watching know that now, but that's a great bonus. But the quality of life that I have compared to 7 years ago is just
night and day difference.
It is night and day. Yeah.
Night and day difference. I think you probably have heard me talk about the fact that I have psoriasis, and I've had psoriasis since I was 5. And when I went keto, it got dramatically better. I was able to get off meds, but the only way that I've found to truly suppress it is when I do rounds of carnivore. And like you, I don't really, I enjoy carnivore because I love a good steak, but I do love some of those veggies. I miss them. And right now I have a small flare, and I'm doing another round of carnivore, started a couple days ago just to knock it back. So I'll cycle in and out of carnivore, ketovore. I am interested though, when you did carnivore as an elimination diet and you started adding back veggies, what kind of order? Do you remember what order you added them in? I just wonder if we're about the same page there too.
Right. So when I was doing this, I was kind of winging it. And now I do a whole plan inside of our group on walking people how to reintroduce foods the best way. The way I did it was not the best way. So the way I did it basically was I started with dairy because it's the main thing I missed. I wanted that back. And I found heavy cream for me. I cannot have that every single day in my coffee. It causes me to have horrible cystic hormonal acne. It's a shame because I loved heavy cream. But now I've moved to lactose-free milk, and I can tolerate that just fine. I don't drink it by the glass. I don't put it in things. I just put it as a creamer, and it doesn't affect me that bad. Hard cheeses I reintroduced after that because that's what I love, and also I figured I could tolerate that pretty good. I could goat cheese, and then after that I reintroduced the vegetables, and I found that what I thought I could tolerate, I no longer, or my body was telling me this is probably not the best thing. So cauliflower rice. Couldn't tolerate that. It bloated me horribly. Brussels sprouts, if they're cooked to death,
like
they
all the fiber out of them.
Mush. then I can eat them and it's not that bad. But if
Yeah.
they're the nice crispy ones, I can't handle those. They bloat me as well. I don't love broccoli, so it didn't matter
Mhm.
about broccoli. Onions I brought back, they're fine. Peppers, fine. Tomatoes, fine. And avocados are fine. And that's
Yeah.
pretty much the realm of what I eat anyways. And so anything else
Yeah.
kind of falls into the celebratory, I'm going to choose to eat off plan type of foods. I'm not eating them every day. So for me, finding what was I was sensitive to falls in my weekly meal plan type foods. That's what I
Gotcha.
needed to know. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like you, some days all I eat is animal protein and
Mhm.
butter and
Mhm.
bacon fat.
Mhm.
And then some days I'll have steak with onions, which is like 99.999% carnivore. And then every now and then I'll have what I call a salad. And basically that's bacon and boiled eggs, anchovies, some chicken thighs chopped up,
Mhm.
ranch dressing, homemade ranch dressing, a few tomatoes, and that's it. And that's what I call a salad these days. I go to restaurants and I order a Cobb salad with no lettuce.
How's
And they look at me like, what? And I'm like, yep, that's, I just want the toppings. And it's so good that way. You don't have to dig through the lettuce to find the good part. And
I've never tried that, but I might have to try
it's
it.
so much better that way. And I get extra, I get double bacon, double egg, double chicken, and extra blue cheese crumbles or whatever at the time. Yeah. So I've
That's
just found
nice.
that for my clients, I recommend they go from the least inflammatory or the least problematic type foods down to the most problematic foods. And
Mhm.
depending where they're coming from, there's so many different versions of carnivore. If they're doing triple B and E,
Mhm.
I say bring back in the chicken and the fish first.
Mhm.
Start with the meats that you haven't been eating, and then work your way down to something that you love and
Yeah.
can tolerate. Maybe a aged cheese and not the cheddar crap at the grocery store. And then after you do hard aged cheeses, move to soft cheeses, then liquid dairy,
Yeah.
then vegetables, then nuts. And I have a whole pyramid, and it's like a work sheet basically that walks them through how to reintroduce it. And another thing I did that I don't tell other people to do now that I know better, I just went full in and just like started eating things.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And
then you know what you're
yeah,
eating.
I tell
Girls.
my clients to eat a very small amount once a day over 2 days, and then go back to their baseline carnivore.
Mhm.
Wait 4 days, see if there's any reaction documentation. They have
Mhm.
worksheets that help them along. And then the next week, move on to a different single food, not a food group, because that's
Mhm.
very important. It's not just a food group, it's a specific food. So, not just nuts, cashews,
Mhm.
just a few once a day for 2 days. And so that's how I coach clients now. That's not how I did it, but it is much better and safer way,
Yes.
because there is a chance that you could have a little disaster pants situation if
Mhm.
you go big on something that you actually are sensitive to.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. And I equate it in the clinic when I'm talking to people. I say, think of it like you're starting to feed your baby. You don't start out just feeding them everything that's out there. You do one food, you try it for 4 days, you make sure there's no reaction before you move on. And so we're doing this the same exact way. And I give them kind of a list of the
Yeah.
order I'd like them to kind of go in. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's the way to do it. So speaking of babies, I want to dive into our mom nutrition kind of talk that we're doing here. And I want to start with preconception. And I know that may sound strange for a lot of ladies out there thinking about being a mom, but you're a mom before you're a mom, and the health of your body plays a big role into the health of your pregnancy and the health of your infant. And a lot of people may not know this, but when Neisha was a practicing nurse, she was a labor and delivery nurse. So having experience in that, and then also the lactation consultant thing kind of helps with this aspect too. But when you're thinking about preconception nutrition, what do you think are the big highlights that moms need to focus on during that time to make sure they're healthy for a pregnancy?
Right. So, like you said, a lot of people don't think about that. They think, "Oh, well, when I get pregnant, I'll eat healthy then." And then if you do that, it's even harder to eat healthy when you're pregnant. You have fluctuating hormones and cravings and all this stuff going on. But not only for that, the body that you're in right now may not be at its optimal uh, peak performance level. And that's where you want your body if you're going to make a home for this brand new little sweet baby that's going to drain you of all your nutritional value.
I thought of you.
So you want to have good sources of folate in your diet already. My favorite is eggs.
Mhm,
Good sources of fatty protein, like fatty ribeyes. You can eat pork ribs, those fatty cuts of meat, chicken thighs, chicken wings. Who
mhm.
doesn't love chicken wings?
I know, right?
And then, and then also making sure that you are cutting out the most inflammatory type foods. So definitely no processed
Yes.
foods, no super sugar added type products, like anything that comes in a package in those center aisles, you need to start
Mhm,
getting out of your way of eating. You don't have to do it overnight, but
mhm,
small changes add up. Maybe take a few things out this month, and then next month you take a few more things out. And that's
mhm.
not only going to set you up to feel great through pregnancy, but like I said, baby is going to suck everything out of you. And if you don't have a surplus and you don't continue to eat that way, then there could be a lot of problems that come from that.
Yeah.
One very common issue is women's teeth
Mhm,
really become just brittle and broken, and they just turn completely black almost because they're not eating a good proper human diet during their pregnancy. The
mhm,
baby takes precedence, that they take all of what you have. And
mhm.
so everything just gets sucked out of your bones, your muscle, your teeth. And so you really need to focus on prepping your body for that pregnancy and then continuing through the
Yeah.
pregnancy with a good, proper human diet. That doesn't mean you have to be carnivore.
Mhm,
There's plenty of alternative things for when you have cravings. I know a lot of moms have protein or meat aversions in the first trimester. I did.
mm,
And what I found is most moms, when they have that, if I give them the option to eat cold protein, they can
mm,
handle that. It's more the hot, greasy, smelling that cooking meat. So
mhm,
they eat deli meat, cold boiled eggs,
mhm,
um, protein shakes like from Keto Chow or Equip Premier Protein. Those are two really good ones. And that gets you through that first trimester. Then after that, it gets easier for most women. Also, B6 supplementation. Women can talk to their providers about getting that. That can help with some women
mhm.
with their nausea and all of that fun business that comes along with that. And then making sure you're getting electrolytes and salt and all of that good stuff, and feeding yourself. I hear all the time moms trying to, cut back on eating during pregnancy. That is not the time to do that. Feed your body, feed your baby, and
Yeah,
as long as you're eating real good food,
yeah.
don't worry about it, and don't worry about gaining weight either. You're supposed to do that too. I gained 45 pounds with my pregnancies, with
Mm,
both pregnancy, maybe a little more than that actually. And
mhm.
I was eating real healthy food. I wasn't eating the cookies out of the bag every night, watching, tearjerker romance comedies. I wasn't doing that. I was eating real food, but I still gained weight. And I think a lot of women get really frustrated because they think, I'm eating all this and I'm still gaining weight. But your body knows what it's doing. And as long as you're eating nutrient dense food, the weight will come off, as you can see. It's not going to come off immediately,
So,
especially if you breastfeed. For some women, that can affect weight loss, but that's okay. I think women really need to put the priority on the nutrients
mm,
in the food and not all worrying about all the extra stuff. Eat really good food, eat when you're hungry, and enjoy that pregnancy.
yeah, that's right. And there's a big difference between gaining that weight because you're eating junk food versus gaining that weight because you're eating nutritious food.
Yeah.
The quality of the fat that you gain and the stuff you're storing, the toxins and things like that are completely different, and your body will respond differently. So now let's move to that first year. Let's say first 2 years of life. When you're thinking about nutrition, you're still kind of got to feed the mom one way, and we're also feeding the baby. I think you and I are both going to agree that breast milk is probably the best option if
Yeah.
that is if you're able to breastfeed. And I
Yes.
think most women are to some extent, most, not all, but some
Mhm.
have some issues. Any changes that you would make from the pregnancy nutrition to that first 2 years of life while the mom is breastfeeding?
Oh, first, let me talk about breast milk, because a lot of people get stressed out about, I don't want to do formula and all that, and most women are not going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to do is get a lactation consultant before
Mm.
baby comes. So you
Mhm.
are confident, you know the basics. It's really not that complicated. There's a few things you need to know and focus on. And then
Mm.
you already have someone to call if you run into issues.
Yes.
And I like to think, I hate that fed is best. Like, duh. I don't know anyone who's going, if you can't breastfeed, then you just shouldn't
Yeah.
feed your kid. Like, no one's saying that, right? What
Yeah.
I like to say is, I would say breast milk is the grass raised, grass finished, purest beef that you can find.
Mhm.
And then formula is, your basic, meat that may have a few fillers in it. And
Yeah.
that's how women need to look at it. And I think that will help them not stress out so much about the breastfeeding. I think that causes a lot of issues is that they're like, I don't want to give my kid formula. And
Mhm.
sometimes it happens.
It
But if
does.
if you prepare with a lactation consultant and you go in confident, feeling good about your body and what it was made to do,
Mhm.
most women don't see any issues.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, so if you do breastfeed, if you stayed low carb keto while you were pregnant, there is no need to do anything special. Continue eating the way that you normally eat. I would say increase your electrolytes a little bit. Make sure you're getting plenty of salt in your diet and
Mm.
hydrating. You shouldn't have a problem with that. Your body will be so thirsty. You'll wake up to a desert mouth, basically. Your body will tell you when you need to drink water. That's the main thing. And just eating when you're hungry. And again, not restricting how much you're eating, the portion sizes, anything like that. You're going to be hungry. And
Mhm.
when you're hungry, eat. And that is to make food for your baby and also to support your body as it goes through the fourth trimester, which is a big deal as well. Your body is going through hormonal fluctuations.
Mhm.
Depending on how traumatic your birth is, you'll be going through some things. Like, there's all kinds of things in that fourth trimester that women aren't educated about. And nutrition can really help play a part in getting them in the best place possible to go through that part of having a new baby, whether you're a first time mom or second or third time mom. That first few months after baby comes is a
Mhm.
whirlwind, and you're exhausted, and feeding your body the best nutrient dense food is only going to help you get through that as best as you can.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. So now let's look at the kind of the next stage, going that toddler to right before we start school. And this is the time period that your kids are very much in
Mm-hmm.
right now. Let's talk. What do you feed your kids in a day, and what's your nutritional approach for your children right now?
So Bonnie just turned, well, in 2 days she'll be 10 months old,
Hmm.
and Beckett is 3.5. So they're at two different stages, but we did the same thing with Beckett that we do with Bonnie. We do baby led weaning, but obviously we do no oatmeal, no rice, no, processed foods or anything like that. Nothing comes from a canister. She eats whole foods.
Hmm.
And her first food was a rib bone with some meat left on it. And she was 4 months old. And that was more just for her to kind of explore and play and understand tastes and textures.
Yeah.
And as she moved forward, she started eating some scrambled eggs, scrambled with butter and just a little salt on top.
Uh,
Then she had some avocado, and that was from 4 months to 6 months. And by the time she was 7 months, she was just full blown eating anything that we would give her, basically. So she eats what we eat at this point. She eats steak.
mm,
She eats sausage. She eats bacon. She eats eggs. She eats bologna. She eats strawberries. She eats blueberries. She pretty much will eat whatever you hand her. She has a fantastic appetite, and
yeah.
no governor. The kid would just keep eating. Beckett was not that way. He would eat. He ate fine, but he was kind of finicky. He always has been. Not
Yeah.
her. She'll eat it all.
Yeah.
And the baby led weaning book you can find on Amazon. I with Beckett because I had never done that before. Obviously, I followed their guidelines for how to give them, what shape their food should be cut in and those type of guidelines, but I didn't follow the nutritional guidelines. But if you're a mom who's interested in learning about baby led weaning, that is a really great resource. But don't overthink it. Humans have been having babies since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
When I first started giving Bonnie steak, I would chew it up for her and then give it to her.
Yeah.
If you're worried about them choking, you can always pre-chew the food. And some people think that that is awful and gross, but it's just, I think that's natural.
It is
Uh,
natural.
that's the first time she ate steak. I chewed it up for her and then I gave it to her,
Mhm.
and I cut her food up for her now. And another thing with baby led weaning is you don't give them soft food, stuff
Mhm.
they really have to use their jaws on, and that helps
Mhm.
develop that muscle right there and
Mhm.
makes their teeth come in a little bit more evenly.
Mhm.
And then also, you don't put the food in her mouth, you set it down, she picks it up, puts it in her own mouth.
Mhm.
And that saves me a lot of time, except for I have to keep putting food on her plate because she eats it so fast.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I can eat while she's eating because she can feed herself, as opposed to me having to set a dedicated amount of time to just feeding her. She's
Yeah.
doing it on her own. So it actually is awesome. And then she still nurses throughout the day as well. She's dropped a few sessions as she's introduced more and more food,
Mhm.
but she loves it. And Beckett is a 3-year-old. So if you've ever had a 3-year-old, you probably know that they are little terrors, and they
Yeah.
are, they're at this stage in life where they are very autonomous. They
Mhm.
want to assert their independence, they're opinionated. And so 3 was a hard
Mhm.
year for
Mhm.
food with him. He used to love eggs. Now he will not touch them.
Mm.
He basically lives off of cheeseburgers with no bun.
Mm.
And I make him chicken nuggets using, sometimes I use pork panko and Parmesan cheese.
Mhm.
There's a new chicken flour on the market that's made from ground up chicken.
Mhm.
And so I use that. And that's what he eats, and some berries and nuts sometimes. But
Mhm.
he will, if I cook something new, he's not eating it. It's not happening. I'm not having that. No, thank you. I would like a cheeseburger. But he's still eating good quality foods.
Yeah.
He's just going about it in his own way. And he is, like I said, we go to church, we go to birthday parties. He's at the age where he gets invited to birthday parties all the time. He has seen and tasted the naughty goodness of sugar,
Yeah.
but he knows that that is not what fuels his body, that that's just for fun, and we eat it every now and then. And
Mhm.
sometimes it makes our tummy hurt because he's had a little biofeedback from some sweets, which
Mhm.
was it. That just sparked a conversation for us to talk about, why did that happen? And we don't eat that stuff all the time, so when we eat too much, that might make us feel bad. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not demonizing any foods for them. I'm just trying to teach them what foods help us be strong and healthy, and what foods are just basically for fun, and maybe we have a few times a year on special occasions. And
Yeah.
so far, he makes his decisions. We go to church every Sunday. He knows that there are donuts in there.
Mhm.
And sometimes he'll say, "Can I have a donut?" And sometimes he'll say, "Donuts are bad for you." Sometimes he says it to his little friends, and I've had to have a talk about, mind your own business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mind your business, because I'm not trying to preach to
Yeah.
3-year-olds about nutrition.
Church, not necessarily. This is not our education time.
Exactly,
But
exactly. So,
sometimes it comes out and you just want to hide in a corner because did my kid
mhm,
really just say that about this? But oh well.
that's
Yep.
kids for you. But they both
Yes.
really enjoy real food. It's not been a struggle, and I don't have to spend, a lot of money on these little tiny cans of baby food. And I don't have to go out of my way to make special things for them. I just give them what I'm eating, and they both have thrived. Bonnie is fixing to start walking like any day now.
Yeah, it's amazing the thought process that we humans have went to where we think that babies cannot survive without the little puffs things that are out there,
Yeah.
or that they have to have Cheetos or this or that. It's like, no, we humans have lived for thousands of years
Mhm.
having real food and eating things a certain way. And so, I wish I had never put that first Cheeto in front of my kid. I wish I'd never given it to him. Now, unfortunately, I didn't come to my nutritional awakening until after my son was a little bit older. And so trying to break him of some of the foods that he learned to love that was totally my fault for giving it to him and for not knowing better, it was a challenge. So looking into that next season, the school age. I know your kids are not there yet, but it doesn't mean you're not educated on the challenges of that time of life. And I'm definitely educated with that time of life, as Griffin was around third grade when we started changing his nutrition and moving more to whole foods. And then Willow was born around that time, and she's now in second grade. Um, that's a challenging time because the pickinesses seem to come out, and they get more vocal about those pickinesses, and they want to fit in with their friends. Everybody else is having something that's in a wrapper, mom, and I want to have something that is in a wrapper. We continue to do the whole, our home is going to be a safe place, this is what we're going to eat here. And when we get out, we try not to demonize. Like, you do you have any advice for those moms who are dealing with that picky school age child that just wants to fit in and be like every other kid that's out there?
Yeah. And I will say, I'm very, very grateful that I did start this health journey before I had kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is probably so hard to start once your kid is your age with all that they have loved, like you said, and then their friends. But the good thing about keto becoming more and more popular is there are way more products on the market that can substitute for the things that maybe your kid is around. So instead of having Doritos with their, lunch sandwich that you've made with Sola bread or whatever, then there are the high-low chips, and there are Quest chips, which aren't perfect, but much better than the alternative Dorito.
Mm-hmm.
There are those bento boxes for you to make their lunch fun, and you
Mm-hmm.
can cut different shapes and things. That's what I do for Beckett, and when I send him to daycare, which is just his Lovey's house, but still he enjoys that,
Yeah,
getting cool little things. So I
yeah,
make his own Lunchables, basically, that's just nuts and bologna cut in different shapes, and strawberries or blueberries, whatever he's into at the moment.
yeah.
And then also, I think getting your kid involved with food in the kitchen helps so much.
Mm-hmm.
Getting them in there cooking and talking about the different food and the different ingredients, and them being able to maybe take the leftovers to lunch, and they're like, I made this.
Yeah,
That gets kids going. They love to be in the kitchen. They love to see that stuff and spend it's quality time, and
yeah.
they end up being good cooks, and then you're going to benefit from that when they're older, and
Yes,
be like, get in there and cook some meatloaf or whatever.
yes.
And just like I said, talking about the difference in foods, if I always say find your kids' pain point, especially when they're in the preteen to teen years. They are probably struggling with how they feel about their body, and maybe they have acne, or maybe they just really want to be good at sports. They have all these things that they're going through in high school, and their friends and all that. And just talk about how food can actually help with those things. Eating a clean uh, diet. You don't have to call it a diet, call it whatever you want. Eating clean foods can keep them feeling good, clear their skin up,
Mm-hmm.
make them better athletes, make them their GPA go up. Maybe they're really into being smart.
Yeah,
All of these things, food matters, and kids don't understand that if you don't tell them. They think that it's just food. They're
yeah.
just eating. So until you put that together, they can't understand that kind of stuff. So I always say start with why we eat this way, what these foods do, and break down why they should want to eat these type of foods, and never say I don't ever say you can't have that,
Mm-hmm.
because that's pretty good
No.
guarantee that your kid is going to go, well, I want it now because you said I couldn't have it. So, those ultimatums just don't come into the conversation. It's always, these foods make us feel good. These foods make us strong. These foods make us, stronger, smarter, and faster. And, you can be a Power Ranger, whatever your kid's into at the time. That's how I do this food thing. It's like,
Yeah.
my kid loves Power Rangers and Transformers. And, I just say, do the Power Rangers eat candy all day to get that big and strong, do you think? No. What do they eat, you think? Meat, dinosaurs. He's into dinosaurs.
Yeah.
What's Tyrannosaurus Rex eat? Does he eat
Mm.
candy? No, he eats meat. Right, he eats meat. All these things, I just kind of throw them in there and hope that it catches on. And I'm sure it'll get harder as the years go by and he's into more things and around more kids. And but what
Mhm.
I'm hoping is by the time he is, you know, around other children, other moms and other families, maybe they're not keto, but they're more focused on real whole foods that aren't in packages.
Mhm.
And that right there would just be the best thing ever.
Yeah, they would definitely be in a much healthier place if they're just
Mhm.
focusing on those whole foods. And, if you're a mom like me, who your kids didn't start off with the best whole foods diet, you don't have to change every single thing in their diet overnight. In fact, that would probably throw them into a tailspin and you're going to get a lot of protests. So start with one thing, instead of buying the gummies this time, we're going to buy fruit and we're going to stick to the berries. You can have all the berries you want instead of the gummies, and, replace one thing at a time. You don't have to make over everything
Yeah,
like you would if you're already an unhealthy adult who's needing to, rip the Band-Aid off and start from scratch. And
exactly.
someone made a comment, and I think it's a good question, is why is it so taboo to say that kids should eat a proper human diet? It's like,
Oh yeah.
why is this so strange to say eating real food is bad? I
I
think,
don't know. I get comments all the time, and I don't put my kids eating in every video. Like maybe
yeah,
2 or 3 times every few months, I'll show what that they ate something, and then I'll do a dedicated video to share.
yeah,
Every time, this is child abuse. That kid should be taken away. I can't believe she is making them eat bacon. Like all this stuff. It's like if I was on here giving them Pop Tarts, you'd be totally fine with it. But because I'm not giving them junk that comes in a package and they're eating bacon and eggs and steak and berries and
yeah,
nuts and getting out in the sunshine and getting dirty and they literally get eggs out of our chicken coop, bring them in the house, and we cook them and we eat them. Like, yes, that sounds awful. Those kids should be taken away.
yeah,
I just, it's a very weird time to be alive with
it
social
is.
media. And I think
It is.
majority of the people don't feel that way. I think they understand I think some people think that I really just only give them meat and they're not allowed to do anything or see any other food and like,
Yeah.
they just assume that. But most people understand that I am just truly giving them real whole foods
Hmm.
and building a good relationship, both mentally and physically, for them,
Yeah.
with the understanding of what foods do to our bodies and for our bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So let's look at that last stage of development before we hit adulthood, that teenagers. And those are some pretty pivotal years for
Yeah,
nutrition in
yeah,
my opinion, because you're going through puberty, you're getting that body ready to then carry babies. I mean, this is a very pivotal year. So, and it's also a challenging year because your kids are out there even more. And I think a lot of what you already said with the school age kids applies in the teenage years, just continuing to have those conversations. But any extra advice or things you want to throw in there about those teenage years?
I there's so much, especially these days. Like, I am so glad my kids are not teenagers right now, but it might be worse by the time they are. So
Uh-huh.
I would say I would focus on mental health for your teenagers because that is the main issue that they seem to be dealing with,
Mhm.
and making sure that they understand that what they put in their body can affect that, and that you want them to be their happiest and strongest, most confident self.
Yeah.
And when they eat bad foods, that feeds negativity, because
Yeah.
it does. And hopefully there will be more and more young people talking about eating, maybe not exactly this way, but you
Mhm.
know, animal proteins and real vegetables and fruit and things like that, because I think that that's perfect for teenagers. I don't think teenagers have to go carnivore. I
Mm.
think that they just need to try their best to not be eating Doritos every single day, sitting on the couch playing video games and not
Yeah.
getting outside in the sun
Yeah.
and being on TikTok for hours and hours, not going to bed till 3 a.m. Like, there's a lot that has to do with health that doesn't involve food. Of
Yeah.
course, that plays a big part, but I think probably the main thing for teens is to make sure that they are following people that, show a good example of life instead of some toxic, fake version of life.
Yes.
And there are beautiful girls out there that are focusing on being healthy and eating whole foods. Unfortunately, most of them are plant based. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hoping that there will be some 22-year-old cuties come
Yeah.
out soon, and some, younger guys, which there's more younger guys in the space than there are girls, it seems, that are on social media. I'm sure they're in real life, there's many, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that there will be these influences, because that's where kids are these days. They're on social media, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that except for hiding in a cave, in the middle of nowhere. And who's going to do that? They have a car, they have friends, they're out there living their life. So it's just, I think it's best to focus on the foundations as early as you can with making good decisions, period. And that kind of covers everything.
Yeah, it really does. And who knows? Give my daughter maybe about 5 years, and she'll be that person on social
Yeah.
media. Give yours about 10 years, then they'll be out there together, fighting this fight. Because my daughter, she looks right now when I'm doing diabetic remote patient monitoring, and she's rating foods with me. And she's like, "No, no, Mama, that's not good. Mark it off." And that one's not getting enough protein. She's keeping up with it. So hopefully,
Wow.
no.
Smarty girl.
Even when I say I'm hungrier today than usual, she says, "Did you sleep well and did you eat enough protein yesterday?" I'm like, Willow, you are so smart. This
He's
is awesome.
listening. They're always listening too. And I think
Are.
sometimes we forget that. Beckett, I will think that he didn't hear a word I said, and he'll spout out, word for word, exactly what I said. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I thought you were not paying attention to me. They're
yeah,
always listening. And
they
that's
are.
important to remember, because
Yeah,
they're just little sponges soaking up every single thing that they see and hear.
yeah.
And it's so important to be really aware of what is going on in
Mhm.
their atmosphere, because they will just take that one thing that you said that maybe you didn't want to hear them say, and just spin that and make it a reason to do whatever they want to do. Kids are very smart and resourceful.
Yeah,
So I think just setting them up with good fundamentals for all the basic, like making good decisions, feeling good about themselves, choosing good foods, choosing good friends. Those are very simple things, but
mhm.
if you don't talk about them, then those cannot be developed and grown and bloomed into these, wonderful humans. And I think as a mom, that's our main job, is to make sure these tiny humans become amazing grown humans. And spending time on the details is where that starts, I think.
For sure. All right, last question, and it's nothing to do with nutrition. What is one of your favorite memories with your mom?
Oh, my mom. Let me think. Riding horses when I was younger. We used to ride horses.
So that just kind of sticks
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, that was fun. It's a good
Yeah.
time.
My mom was that mom that was always involved in everything that I did. So whether it was a school function, church function, she was right there in it. And most kids, when they're teenagers, thinks that's annoying. But to me, I remember it now as an adult. And so, moms out there, be involved in your kids' lives day in and day out. They're going to remember it when they get older. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, lastly, we have an event coming up August 26th here in Dixon called Low Carb for Better Health. Miss Neisha will be there and will be speaking. So, if you would like to meet her in person, have time to ask her questions in person, that would be a great time to come and do that. Enjoy the day with us out at Montgomery Bell State Park. And you can find that at LC, the number 4BH.com will take you to the link for tickets and to find out more information about all the speakers that will get there. But thank you for putting up with my video that has been frozen for a long time. Thankfully, it is not with my nose straight up in the air where you're staring the whole
It
time.
could have been way worse, for sure.
Could have been. And thank you to those that are viewing for putting up with that. I've had one technical issue after another in the clinic today. So thank you again, Neisha. I
Of
hope to
course.
chat again. It's been my pleasure. You have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.